Hello my dear students, so I am going to continue the extra questions with you all in the lesson Continuity of Life, where we have discussed the reproduction of plants and man. So extra question 30. Diagram show the pollination process taking place in plants. You all know what pollination is. What is that? Depositing of mature pollens on the stigma of a flower. So that is the process of pollination. If we look at the diagrams, look at diagram A. Here you can see there are two flowers involved. So you all know it has to be cross-pollination. So here you can see pollen from this anther can fall on the stigma of the second flower, or pollen from this flower can come and fall on the stigma of the other flower. So it is a cross-pollination. There will be mixing of characteristics taking place. If we look at diagram B, here it is the anther of one flower. From there, the pollens are deposited on the stigma of the same flower. So that is self-pollination. There is no possibility of mixing of characters. So that is why normally plants, they try to avoid self-pollination and promote cross-pollination. You all know that. So then, the first question, identify the type of pollination shown above. So what is pollination A? It is cross-pollination. Cross-pollination. Then what is pollination B? That is self-pollination. Self-pollination. Then the second question, what is the advantage of pollination A over pollination B? What is the advantage? I told you all before also, when there are two flowers involved, there is a chance of characters mixing together. So then of course, very strong new generations can be produced. That is the advantage. So here we can say, in A, characteristics of flowers can mix together, producing strong new generations. So that is the advantage of cross-pollination. Then the third one, write 3 adaptations shown by plants to avoid pollination B. So that is self-pollination. Plants try to avoid self-pollination. You are familiar with the adaptations. What are they? They have unisexual flowers. So that means the male reproductive structure is in one flower and the female reproductive system is in the other flower. So we only have staminate flowers and pistillate flowers. So unisexual flowers, that is one adaptation. If they are bisexual flowers, they show self-sterility. What is self-sterility? Even if the pollens of the flower fall on the stigma of the same flower, the pollen will not develop. It will not produce the pollen tube and fertilization will not take place. That is known as self-sterility. Then they show Hercogami. What is Hercogami? If you take a flower, if the stigma and the anther are kept or positioned far apart at a distance, then of course there will be less chances of the pollens falling on the stigma of the same flower. That is another adaptation. Then they show dichogamy. What is dichogamy? The maturity of the pistil and the stamen occur at different time intervals. Either the pistil matures first or the stamen matures first. So then of course self-pollination will be avoided. Then there is the extrostamens. Extrostamens, either the stigma will be straight and the stamens are bent, or the stigma will be bent and the stamens will be straight. So those are all different adaptations shown by plants in order to avoid self-pollination. So here we are supposed to write 3 adaptations shown by plants to avoid pollination bee. So you just need to say what the 3 adaptations are. You don't have to explain them. So here I will write one, self-sterility, then having extros stamens, then we can say Hercogami. So you all can also write Dichogamy, unisexual flowers, any other one of the 2. That's fine. So those are 5 adaptations shown by plants to avoid self-pollination and to promote cross-pollination. With that, students, I will move on to the next question. Extra question 40. Flowers are adapted to avoid self-pollination and to promote cross-pollination. We just discussed that concept before also. So, flowers are adapted to avoid self-pollination and to promote cross-pollination. Some of these flowers are given below. So, when you look at the diagrams, look at the pictures, you all can identify the flowers. What is P? You can see it's a flower of coconut. So, in coconut, there are unisexual flowers, and you all can remember the female flowers or the pistillate flowers are at the bottom. Apical flowers are the male flowers or the staminate flowers. Then you can see jasmine. Then there is passion. Then there is orchid, and also there is corn. So now we will have to answer the questions based on these flowers. First one. Write the plant that shows self-sterility. Out of these, what is the plant that shows self-sterility? Passion fruit. So that is R. Self-sterility, that is R. If you want, you can write it as passion flower. Normally, students, you all know when you answer questions like these, in the question itself, they tell you to use the letters given to answer the questions. Then, of course, you will only have to write R. For here, I have written down the name of the flower also so that you will remember it better. So, write the plant that shows self-sterility, that is R. Then the next question, we need to identify 2 plants that possess unisexual flowers. Out of these, you can remember coconut, it has unisexual flowers, and corn also has unisexual flowers. So both of them have staminate and pistillate flowers separately. But if we take jasmine, then passion fruit and orchid, they all have the bisexual flowers. That is why in jasmine there is extrostamens, whereas in passion there is self-sterility, and in orchid there is hercogamy. So those are different adaptations in flowers where there are both the pistil and the stamen. So identify 2 plants that possess unisexual flowers, P and T. So that is coconut and corn. So as I said before, you all can write either the letters or the flower here, but according to the question, it is better, students, if you all learn to write the letters given to you without writing the real name of the flower or the organism. You are familiar with this type of questions. With that, I am going to move on to the next part of the question. So, in some flowers, the stamens and stigma are positioned at a distance. What is the name given to this adaptation? What is the name given to that adaptation? It's called hercogamy. In hercogamy, there is a distance between the stamen and the stigma. So, there, that is the first answer. Identify the flower with this adaptation from the above. So, here of course, the pictures are shown to you below. So, as I told you, students, S, that is orchid, has hercogamy, or it shows hercogamy. So, we can say what is the name given to this adaptation? It is hercogamy. and it is flower S, that is orchid. Then what is the adaptation of flower Q to prevent self-pollination? Flower Q. So we have already written flower S for orchid, flower Q, that is jasmine. What is the adaptation? I told you all they show extrose stamens. So here students, flower Q. Flower Q is jasmine. What do they have? What is the adaptation? They have extrose stamen. So what is the adaptation of flower Q to prevent self-pollination? They have extrose stamen. Extrose stamen. So I am sure you have answered these questions correctly. With that students, I am going to move on to the next question. Extra question 50. What are Zoophilus flowers? What are Zoophilus flowers? Flowers that are pollinated by animals. So those are the Zoophilus flowers. Flowers pollinated by animals are known as Zoophilus flowers. Then the next question. Write 2 examples of Zoophilus flowers. You all know many examples. You can think of Katurumurunga or Agati, then even Thunbergia, winged beans. All those have Zoophilus flowers, where you have very large flowers, colorful flowers. Those are Zoophilus flowers. So as examples, we can write Thunbergia, and I will write winged beans. So these are 2 examples of flowers. Those are Zoophilus flowers, flowers pollinated by animals. Then we have the next question. Write 3 adaptations of Zoophilus flowers for pollination. Zoophilus flowers, they need to attract insects. So what are the adaptations? The flowers will be very large, they will be very colorful, they will have a fragrance, they will have nectaries, then they will have the stigma will be sticky and the pollens also will be sticky. So those are some adaptations. In addition to that, you can remember the flowers will have shapes that are there to cheat the animals so that the flowers look like insects. So the animals will get attracted to the flowers. So that is also an adaptation of Zoophilus flowers. So if we are to write down 3 adaptations, you all can write any 3 adaptations. So here I will say colorful flowers. Then we can say they possess stigma that are sticky in nature. Sticky in nature. And also we can say have shapes and shapes to cheat insects. So that is another adaptation. In addition to that, students, you all can also write the flowers are large and also they are positioned in such a way that the flowers are exposed to the body of the insects or the animals. That is also an adaptation. Then there is fragrance, there is nectaries, even the pollens are sticky. All that can be included here. So you are only supposed to write 3 adaptations of Zoophilus flowers. If we look at the answers, Zoophilus flowers are pollinated by animals. Then examples, Thunbergia, wing beans. In addition to that, you can even write Katurumurunga or Agathi. All those are Zoophilus flowers. Then the adaptations. So I am sure you were able to write the adaptations correctly. With that, I'll move on to the next question. Extra question 60. What are Animophilus flowers? What are Animophilus flowers? Flowers that are pollinated by wind. So here, if we write the answer, flowers that are pollinated by wind. Those are the Animophilus flowers. Write another name given to Animophilus flowers. Or Animophilus. Instead of Animophilus, what can we call them? We can call them as Aerophilus flowers. Write another name given to Animophilus flowers. Animophilus flowers, we can also call them as Aerophilus flowers. Aerophilus flowers. Then, write two examples of Animophilus flowers. Examples of Animophilus flowers. You all can remember corn, coconut, paddy. All these have Animophilus flowers. So here we have to write only two examples. I will write coconut and paddy. These are Animophilus or Aerophilus flowers. Then the next one. Write three adaptations of Animophilus flowers for pollination. Three adaptations of Animophilus flowers for pollination. Can you all think of three adaptations? Usually the flowers are present as inflorescence. And also the flowers are present towards the apex of the plant so that they are easily exposed to wind. And also the pollens are very light, they are tiny and a very large number of pollens are produced. And the stigma is usually branched. So those are some adaptations of Animophilus flowers for pollination. So here I will write stigma is branched. Then we have small light pollens and also pollens are produced in large number. So those are adaptations. You can write the other adaptations as well. You can say usually the flowers are inflorescence. You all know a cluster of flower present in a particular branch. And also they are usually present at the apex or towards the tip of the plant so that they are at a higher elevation. They can be pollinated easily by wind. So those are also adaptations of Animophilus flowers. With that, students, I will move on to the next question. Extra question 17. What are Hydrophilus flowers? So the next type, what is it? Flowers pollinated by water. So here we can say flowers pollinated by water are known as Hydrophilus flowers. Write an example of Hydrophilus flowers. You all know the plant, Velus. It is an aquatic plant. So their pollination occurs by water. So Velus. Vallisneria. Vallisneria is an example of Hydrophilus flowers. Are the above bisexual flowers or unisexual flowers? You all know how pollination occurs by water. So, when the flowers are matured, the staminate flower, that is the flower that possesses the androecium, the male reproductive structure that contains the pollens, detaches from the plant and it floats on the surface of the plant. There it comes in contact with the pistillate flower, that is the flower that contains the gynosium. So, the stigma is there. Then when the stamens of the flower that is floating comes in contact with the stigma of the other flower, there will be pollination. So, there it has to be unisexual flowers. Or are the above bisexual flowers or unisexual flowers? So, the answer will be unisexual flowers. Unisexual flowers. So, students, in the last 3 questions, we have discussed the different agents of pollination. Animophilus flowers or aerophilus flowers, flowers pollinated by wind. Here, hydrophilus flowers that are pollinated by water. And zoophilus flowers, flowers pollinated by animals. So, you all know you should know examples as well as you all should know the adaptations of these flowers. So, I am sure students up to here you would have answered the questions correctly. With that, I will move on to the next question. Extra question 18. After fertilization, zygote develops to form an embryo. The flower undergoes several changes after fertilization. So, you all know, initially it is the pollination process. The pollens fall on the stigma of the flower. Then the pollen tube grows and through that the gamete cell travels to the ovary. And there inside the ovary, the mature ovules fuse with the pollen or the male gamete cells, and that is what we call as fertilization. And after fertilization, the fertilized ovules become the seeds and the ovary becomes the fruit. And there in the flower, there are changes taking place. That is what we need to write here. So, the first question, what happens to the following parts? So, here the first part is ovary. Ovary is the structure that develops into the fruit. Ovary becomes the fruit. Becomes the fruit. Wall of ovary. What happens to the wall of ovary? It becomes the fleshy part of the fruit which covers the seed. So, we call it the pericarp. Wall of ovary becomes the pericarp. Then fertilized ovules, they become the seeds. Become the seeds. So, ovary becomes the fruit, the wall of ovary becomes the pericarp, and the fertilized ovules become the seeds. Then we have the next question. Write 3 fruits in which the fleshy sepals are attached to the pericarp. You all know, students, normally the other parts of the fruit, the style, the stigma, sepals, petals, all of them fall off the fruit. But in some fruits, the sepals become fleshy and they are still attached to the fruit. You all can think of some examples. You know guava, you know brinjals. In all these, even jambu or rose apple, what we call as rose apple is jambu. In all these fruits, the sepals are attached to the pericarp. They become fleshy and they are attached to the fruit. Mangosteen, rose apple or jambu, then there is brinjals and guava. In all these, the sepals are attached to the fruit. You can write any 3 as examples. So, write 3 fruits in which the fleshy sepals are attached to the pericarp. So, here I will write brinjal, guava and mangosteen. You can also write rose apple or jambu. So those are the questions, those are the parts of this particular question. I will move on to the next one. Extra question 19. What is parthenocarpy? What is parthenocarpy? Producing fruits without fertilization. So here the process of producing fruits without fertilization, that is known as parthenocarpy. Then we need to write 3 examples of parthenocarpy. What are the examples? You all know in apples, oranges and also grapes. There are seedless fruits. These are produced by parthenocarpy. So we can write grapes, apple and oranges. So in these 3, seedless fruits are produced, that is produced by parthenocarpy, that is the process of producing fruits without fertilization. So only if fertilization occurs, the ovules will be converted. The fertilized ovules will become the seeds. So without fertilization means there will be no seeds. So these fruits are known as seedless fruits. You all can remember that. So with that, students, I'll move on to the next question. Extra question 20. Write the methods of seed dispersal. What are the methods of seed dispersal? By wind, by water, by animals and by explosive mechanism. You can write it in any order, students. So we can say by animals, then by wind, by water and by explosive mechanism. Explosive mechanism. Then here, write 2 examples of fruits and seeds dispersed by the methods you mentioned above. So you have mentioned all 4 methods. You need to write 2 examples for each method. So the first method is by animals. By animals, can you think of some fruits? Mango, papaya, nagadharana, all these are, even cashew nut, all these are dispersed by animals. So here I will write mango, papaya. Even banana, those are all fruits that are dispersed by animals. Then by wind. By wind, what can you think of? Calotropis, milkweed, horror, mahogany, then even cotton, drumstick, all those are different fruits that are or seeds that are dispersed by wind. So here I will write mahogany and milkweed. Then we have 2 more methods. By water. By water, what are the fruits? Coconut, arecanut, Ceylonese almond, all those are dispersed by water. Even lily, lotus, all these are dispersed by water. So by water, coconut, then arecanut. You can write any other 2 examples as well. Then by explosive mechanism. By explosive mechanism. What are the examples? You can think of lady's fingers, then balsam plants, cotton, even milkweed. They all get dispersed, the seeds get dispersed by explosive mechanism. So examples, lady's finger and cotton. So these are all different methods by which fruits and seeds are dispersed. And you can remember, students, when I explained this in the lesson also, I told you all some of the fruits and seeds, they can be dispersed by explosive mechanism and wind. You can remember that. Why? Because they explode, they get dispersed to a certain area, then from there they can be dispersed by wind. So like that, they have different modes of dispersion of seeds and fruits. And also, one particular fruit can have more than one adaptations in order to disperse by a particular method. So these are all things, that all adaptations and examples that you already know. So with that, students, I will move on to the next question. Extra question 21. Write 2 adaptations of fruits and seeds that are dispersed by animals with an example. So there are different adaptations. I just mentioned that to you all. Plants or fruits and seeds that are dispersed by animals. What are the adaptations? They have fleshy succulent parts. You can remember mango, papaya, that is why we consume them as fruits. So they have edible succulent parts, fleshy succulent parts. Then they have different colors, attractive colors in order to attract the animals. Again, you can think of mango, you can think of banana, the false fruit of cashew. All these have different colors. Then they have structures that can attach to the body of the animal. For example, you can think of Nagadharana. They have hook-like structures. Some of them have hair-like structures. Some of them are sticky. You can think of love grass, Tuttiri. So that is sticky to the, or it has hair-like structures to attach to the body of the animal. So these are some examples or adaptations that are shown by fruits and seeds in order to be dispersed by animals. So they want you to write 2 adaptations. Here, one I will say, have edible, fleshy, succulent parts. So that is mainly the pericarp. What is that? Example, mango. Then we can say have hook-like structures. Hook-like structures. For that example, Nagadharana. So for this, you can write other examples, students. The first one, you can even write papaya, banana. Then for having hook-like structures, you can write Nagadharana is also called Maramundirigai. You can write love grass. All those are examples. Then you can write the shapes of different fruits that are there to cheat animals. They look like insects sometimes. They have very bright colors. For example, you can think of Olinda, or you can even think of castor, the seeds of castor oil, bitter gourd. They all have very colorful. They are very colorful. The seeds and the fruits are very colorful. So because of that also, the animals get attracted to them. So those can be included in the answer. Then we have the second part of the question. Write 2 adaptations of fruits and seeds that are dispersed by wind with an example. So here again, fruits and seeds dispersed by wind with an example. You all know, students, these fruits and seeds, they have thread-like structures to float in wind. Milkweed is a very good example for that. Then they have wing-like structures. For example, mahogany, you can think of drumstick. All these have wing-like structures again to float in the wind. And also the seeds are very tiny and light. Again, you can think of milkweed, cotton, all these are very light seeds and tiny seeds. And also the seeds are produced in large number. So that also you can write the examples as milkweed, cotton, all those are examples. So here you are supposed to write 2 adaptations of fruits and seeds that are dispersed by wind with an example. And another thing, the seeds are usually born at the apex of the plant so that they can easily be dispersed. So that is also another adaptation. So here, if we write 2 adaptations, possess thread-like structures, As example, I will write milkweed. Then we can also say possess wing-like structures. So for that, I will write drumstick. So these are examples of different adaptations shown by fruits and seeds that are dispersed by wind. With that, students, I will move on to the next question. Extra question 22. Write 2 adaptations of fruits and seeds that are dispersed by water with an example. Fruits and seeds that are dispersed by water. You all can remember the coconut, areca nut, even Ceylonese almond. They have a very thick outer skin. They have a fibrous pericarp of a hair-like, fiber-like pericarp, and they have a very strong shell so that water does not go in. Those are different adaptations. Similar to that, they have structures that are adapted to float. The fruit itself is a structure that can easily float in water. So that is also an adaptation. Lily, water lily, lotus, they all show those adaptations. The pericarp is spongy in nature. That again is seen in both lotus and water lily. So those are different adaptations. We can write any 2 adaptations here. We can say fibrous pericarp that help to float. That is seen in coconut. Then spongy type of fruit that can float. So for that, we can write the example as water lily. Then we have the next question. Write the factors that cause explosion of pericarp in some fruits. What are the factors that cause explosion? Explosion can be caused by touch, it can be caused by moisture, and also dry weather conditions. So 3 factors: touch, moisture, or dry weather conditions. So write the factors that cause explosion of pericarp in some fruits: touch, moisture, and dry weather conditions. I am sure, students, you were able to answer all these questions related to dispersal of fruits and seeds correctly. With that, I will move on to the next question. Extra question 23. What is termination of seeds? The development of the embryo, matured embryo, in order to produce which grows out of the seed to produce the seedling is known as germination of seeds. So that is what we need to write here. Development and growth of the matured embryo to produce the seedling is known as germination of seeds. Then we have another question. Write the factors essential for germination of seeds. What are the factors? The viability of the seed, that is an internal factor, and there are 3 external factors. What are they? Water or moisture, air or oxygen, and also temperature. So there are 4 factors. Write the factors essential for germination of seeds. Viability of seeds, water or moisture, then air or oxygen, and temperature. So those are the factors essential for germination of seeds. The first question, what is germination of seeds? Development and growth of the matured embryo to produce the seedling is known as germination of seeds. And these are the 4 factors: viability of seeds, water or moisture, air or oxygen, and temperature. With that, students, I will move on to the next question. Extra question 24. Write the 2 types of germination. What are the 2 types of germination? One is hypogeal germination, the other one is epigeal germination. So you all know that. Hypogeal germination and epigeal germination. Then, if you can remember, students, in hypogeal germination, the cotyledons do not come above the surface of the soil. They are present under the soil and they do not produce food for the plant seedling to develop. Whereas in epigeal germination, you all can remember the cotyledons, they come out of the soil and also they produce food. Then write examples for the above methods. Usually hypogeal germination is seen in monocot plants and epigeal germination is seen in dicot plants. So what are the examples for hypogeal germination? Hypogeal germination. We can write coconut, then zea mays. We can even write paddy. All those are hypogeal germination, monocot plants. Then epigeal germination. Epigeal germination. What are the examples? You all can write green gram, even mango, any dicot plant. Green grams, mango. These are all examples of epigeal and hypogeal germination. I am sure, students, you all are familiar with monocot and dicot plants. You have even observed the germination of green gram plants. So you can write any suitable example. So with that, students, I will move on to the next question. Extra question 25. What is seed dormancy? What is seed dormancy, student? Even though the required essential factors are provided to the seeds do not germinate. So that is known as dormancy of seed. So we can write that as the answer. Sometimes seeds do not germinate even though the essential factors are provided. That is known as seed dormancy or dormancy of seed. Then we have the next question. Write the factors that affect seed dormancy. There are two factors that affect the seed dormancy. What are they? The embryo not being matured and the impermeability of the testa or the seed coat for water or air. Those are the two reasons why the seeds remain under dormancy. So, write the factors that affect seed dormancy. You can say embryo not being matured, seed coat or testa being impermeable to water or oxygen. That is what the two factors are, the factors that affect seed dormancy. Then there is the next question. Write 3 methods used to remove seed dormancy with an example for each method. So, to remove seed dormancy, what can we do? We can store the seeds for little time. So, that can be done with any seeds. Then we can burn the villi on the seeds. That is done for teak seeds. Then you can remove the seed coat or the testa. That is done with orange seeds. You can also put the seeds in hot water for some time. That is done with ipilipil. And also you can gently crack the seed coat. That is done with Nelly. So here you are supposed to write 3 methods used to remove seed dormancy with an example for each method. So we can say remove the seed coat gently or just remove the seed coat. The example is orange. Keep the seeds in hot water for some time. That can be done with ipil. Then the next method, crack the seed coat gently, maybe with a stone. That of course is optional. That can be done for Nelly. So these are 3 methods. In addition to that, you can say you can burn the villi of the seed coat, that is in teak seeds. And also you can store the seeds for some time. That can be done with any seed. So these are all different methods used to remove seed dormancy. So you know what seed dormancy is? The seed does not develop even though the essential factors are provided. And that is caused by the embryo not being matured or the impermeability of the seed coat or testa for water or oxygen. And these are methods that are used to break the dormancy and to make the seeds to germinate. So I am sure students, up to now you would have answered all these questions correctly and you would have compared your answers with my discussion. So with these students, I will end the chapter here. In the next chapter, I will discuss some extra questions related to reproduction of man.